All right, this is a,
Oh, hey, we got this.
this is a land
This
use
is
committee
Barthel.
meeting. Oh. Oh, Carolyn's here, okay.
Hi.
Everybody's here. All right, this is a land use committee meeting, it's March 10th, 26th, and I'm Ann Mazur, I'm the chair of the committee. Why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? Elena, I don't know if you say it's being recorded yet. It is being recorded.
Yeah, thank you. Elena Brugo, select board member.
Peter Coffin, Conservation Commission.
Barry Iroll, planning board representative.
Bob Sweet, applicant. Frank Nero, land use committee member.
Carolyn Barthel, alternate member.
So we have Bob Sweet here, and it was added to the agenda because at first the warrant deadline was like in April, and then like yesterday, it went to March 24th. So Bob didn't have a lot of time to get around to the committees, and so that's why we added him. So Bob, why don't you explain what you are presenting?
I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to a project that I'm considering. I think it's something that would work well for the town, but I want to get this board's input on what their thoughts are and what their expectations would be, so that any questions can be worked on before it needs to be addressed in a more formal manner. So what we're proposing is, we're in the age-restricted multi-use development project.
Could you
you
look
say-
at, is that the
yeah.
driveway that you put into your new house there?
No, that's,
Where is this?
Yeah, why don't you say-
Where's this?
so this is, you know where the gray house is, 44 Milford Street?
Yep.
It's from there, that property,
Okay.
and it goes all of 50 Milford Street and wraps all the way behind.
All right, so that's the,
So
that's the cranberry bog in between the two roads going in.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that abuts Brookview. You see the cul-de-sac up top? That's Brookview. That's the new development that's in.
This, he's talking about right
So-
here. And Route
So those
16
12
is
homes
down
are
here.
already in, you're saying?
Correct.
So is this,
Where do they access the
I was
roads?
talking to you.
I need to get a little more orientation.
It's off.
Is this across from Millville Street?
No, this is across from the joint operations and the finer line.
Oh, over there. The fire line.
Yeah.
Got
You have a hill, you have a hill.
It's, Down Route 16 is what we're talking about right here. So this is how you get in and out, right?
Right, there's two different access points. There's Moran Street, which is my current driveway for 50 Milford Street. And there's, starts with a B. There's a, what the hell is the name of it? Excuse my language, but there's two different access points that are on the town map. They are registered by the town or recognized by the town. And my goal is to try and increase the over 50 population, housing population by where you see the bigger building to the east, or that's to the west.
To the west.
That's to the west.
To us, so would that make it easier if
It's up to you.
updated?
So your shop is up front, right, on the street?
Right.
And then you got some parking going on, and then behind that is the cranberry bog. It goes, there's a street.
Right, so the cranberry bog's right here.
What is that?
Cranberry bog.
Oh, got it.
And this is a vacant lot that is scheduled, it's a within the 200-foot commercial zone of Route 16. So it's commercial, it can't be changed to residential. This is where my shop is, that's commercial. This is a proposed commercial site right here as well. And then this is a commercial lot right here as well.
Is
This
that an empty lot, or is that where the storage units are? That's the empty.
This right here is where the house, 44 Milford Street is. The storage lots are down here.
Okay.
There's a house, existing house right there now,
Yeah, this is the gray house, 44 Milford Street.
which you're gonna turn into a detention pond or something?
If,
Might have.
that may actually be the wastewater treatment plant.
Is that right? Is that what you're doing?
Unfortunately, in order to get the nitrogen loading, I may have to put in I will have to put in public water supply and wastewater treatment plant.
So this is right up at the top of the hill.
Getting there.
Going in towards,
It's halfway
Hopedale.
up.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get water from Hopedale?
I tried to get water from my house and they wouldn't let me have it.
Water's not the issue, it's a septic, man. That's gonna cost a big money.
Well, that's why, I mean, actually, water is the issue, because if I could get water, then I could have a lot more room for septic.
Yeah, but you gotta go with the treatment plant, you're not going with the leach field.
And what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to accomplish this before they do the whole Route 16 project, because then that gives me a whole new problem of, that's a 3 to 4 year project, and then there'll be a 2 to 3 year moratorium on doing any digging in the street.
Connection through the new pavement or whatever.
Right, so I'm trying to get this, I'm trying to get any approval or any questions answered before the problems multiply.
You're proposing 24 units there?
Well, what I'm really trying to do is
2, 3, 4,
this.
5, 6,
This
7,
right
8,
here.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 times 2. You're talking 42 units there, Bob.
Right.
And the traffic? Wow.
Well, this is preliminary. I'm trying to hit the boards, trying to find out what is expected, what is needed.
So the state is pushing the housing issue with no housing available and stuff, they wouldn't do anything on the water issue?
I don't
Get
know.
involved with Hopedale?
I mean,
It's not
I
really. don't think.
I
The water
reached out to a
department-
couple of the other boards and there's a lot of favorable, return. But I don't guarantee anything until it's guaranteed. So if I can get water and sewer from Hopedale, because it's only right up over the hill, fantastic. If I can do it while they're doing the Route 16 project, even better.
So what do? Ask your state rep or you ask the selectmen to support it?
Get into it with the proper departments. I mean, I remember back, I wanna say the late 80s, 90s, Stockton forced Milford and Westboro for them to tie into the sewer.
Force them to tie into the sewer, because they had.
I don't know how can enforce Milford to allow them to tie into sewer along Upper Purchase Street, then Westboro get hit on the other end.
That would be a huge win for this project.
Can we backtrack a little bit, just so I can make sure that I'm following? So this is your privately owned land, but it's in that RMUD overlay, so
Yes.
the age-restricted mixed-use overlay district. And you are interested in a development that would increase the age-restricted housing
Correct.
in Mendon. Okay, so I just want to make sure, and the timeline for this is, so this is privately owned, so like it's not a town-owned, it's not town-owned land, but you're coming to the land use committee because it's potentially increasing the housing supply, is that sort of?
And there's all sorts of issues that people are gonna scream about, so in a preliminary meeting,
but-
he wanted to flesh out all.
So is there going to be any like affordable housing component to this? Like that, I guess that's one question I have, because I know, it's age restricted, but would there be any affordable housing, like percentage?
I'm assuming that's something.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Duncan Chapman, the broker for Bob and Lauren Sweet. Also joining, obviously remotely tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you guys. And you might remember myself, we helped the town do a couple of projects early on. So, certainly familiar with what's going on. But I think on the question of affordable housing, more than likely, there would be some type of a component, something between 10 and 15%, to be determined by the developer. I'm not sure that the zoning requires that with the age restricted, bylaw that we're trying to follow.
It has some, right? The age restrict, I feel like it had some percentage.
What I know of it speaks to a percentage of it has to be commercial. I don't know that it speaks to.
Okay, I mean, I know it was discussed. We'd have to probably look back at that bylaw. Does anybody remember?
Okay.
I feel like it was something like 10%.
Duncan,
In terms of-
You mean affordable housing?
taking notes?
Oh, in terms of, do you mean like a 42B?
Yeah, I
That's
will.
25%.
Right, but that's a chapter 40B, which he could go that route, but he doesn't. He's going with our proposed bylaw, which has only been done twice. And I don't think Mr. Meehan, does he have any proposed affordable? It will be cheaper because there are only going to be 2 bedrooms restricted, but I don't think it's going to meet affordable standards for however the state's
that's
median income to help the town meet its 10% requirement.
So, yeah,
So, but who would build it? You know, it's one thing
Well-
whether you're just getting the permit and then you'll sell it on to somebody to develop it.
I'm not gonna build a project this size. So yes, that's what I'm trying to do is get the permitting and all the right paperwork so that way the project can go forward through a third party.
Yeah, we've already been marketing the property to the open market. Haven't had a ton of requests to get into it deeper. I think the biggest issue has already been discussed, the lack of town sewer, town water. Developers are looking to, go to places where those exist. We are looking at a number of different concepts, as Bob's already mentioned here, maybe here with an assisted living development to the west, and then the senior age-restricted housing to the east. So we're still playing with what the mix might look like.
I found it is 10, in the bylaw, it is 10% affordable units.
Okay.
That's
So-
fine.
so would you do the minimum of 10% or would you do more possibly?
It would be up to the developer, but most likely they would do the minimum, to make the numbers, be able to work. We did check to see the bylaws, and it looks like assisted living is also by right. Trying to get the right amount of units in there is one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, as we talk about possibly trying to acquire contiguous town-owned land up to the north east of right there, exactly.
Jesse, you want to purchase some town-owned land that abuts you? Is that what
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
it would, yes, that's correct. That would be, we're looking into that right now.
Behind the solar panels, before Muddy Brook, and in between Brookview, there's a section right here, that this line right here would carry right over to an adjacent property, the town-owned property, and then come over, and that right there is landlocked land.
So Bob, show me, there is a cul-de-sac in that northern edge, right?
That's in
That gray-
Hopedale.
That's.
This right here is
No,
proposed.
no, further,
It's Hopedale.
right, but is that constructed?
Yes, that's Brookview,
And that's Hopedale.
correct.
So put your finger on the Hopedale Mendon town line, is that the
It's
whole?
Mendon.
No, this is Mendon, actually.
Yeah, it's Mendon.
Is it Mendon?
Yeah, that's Mendon because they have to hook into, no, they have, these guys have private wells and private sewer. But the rest of the development on Dudley Road has Hopedale water.
So am I seeing a blue line, is that the stream that comes out of the Cranberry Bog, is that flowing that way north?
The Cranberry Bog comes through here and there's wetlands all through here, yes, and it crosses over, there's a bridge with an underpass for the water.
Couldn't
on
you connect up, it would be real nice to connect up that road, so it's a.
I would love to do that,
But somebody.
there are some restraints on this. The gas line runs through there, which gives me some problem. And that being a wetland at the bottom of two ravines gives me a little bit of problem. And that's why we're hoping to, speak more about the land that's up here in the corner. Because that, with having to acquire enough land to try and fit a 200-foot radius public water supply, that would be a good spot for it.
How many acres is it?
3.6.
That's, yep.
And that would be on one of your, if you flip that next map in, And I can actually show, and I apologize for only one set of copies.
I think you could send me one map.
Bob, are you telling me that's only 3.6 acres, that whole parcel?
No, the one that's right there is 28.
Okay, thank you.
The one that I'm looking for, to try and add to it, would come from here,
You would
over
want
here, and that
almost
would
4
be.
acres.
You only sent me one map.
Okay, then what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to pull it up on my iPad, so
So
that.
that's a big chunk of land that the town already owns, that we put the solar panels on, so that's like 50 acres.
I wonder if we could bring it up with the GIS,
Sure.
not just to
You can.
better, I mean, I have it up, I just, to help orient, especially in the recording, because I think it's useful to see.
Well, Bob, I think that's gonna take you longer to negotiate that.
I'm gonna come over and look.
Well,
But I understand you have time constraints and you're already marketing this thing, so.
there's a lot of working from home right now. One of them is time. It's going against me. I have, if I can get favorable response, then I can bring it further, try, if it's town-owned land, it has to go in front of town meeting, and town meeting warrant ends on the 24th, so I'm tight.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's tight, because it would have to, like, if you're talking about a transfer of land, that's a slow process, so if that's part of it,
Well, no, I
That
just
would
need
be
to know
later,
whether the
yeah.
town would be interested in doing it.
right?
So this is the property he's talking about right here. And is it 44 that's included in that? Or 42?
44 is included, so it'd be 44 and 46 and 50.
Oh, so those
So
three
all of that, now you see how this goes right here?
Shapes.
This is what we're trying to accomplish, is this right here, this
That
piece.
triangle.
So that northern part is in Hopedale, that little jutty up top, and in 46,
You'll see the town line
That
along
big block
16.
Well, if you pick up that
It's at
triangle,
Hillsdale.
that would make that connection with cul-de-sac
Yeah, it's
easy,
not in Hopedale.
come at that
Yeah.
end.
it's not Hopedale.
Yeah,
It's in
I don't
Macon, yeah.
know that it would be possible for that, because when they put the cul-de-sac in, there's their retention pond right here, and then,
You
you
might
know,
have to rebuild the detention. I don't know. but it-
which again, I mean, those are problems down the road, just trying to find out
Yeah.
whether or not
That's
you
an-
guys have any interest in entertaining this idea.
Well, you're gonna have to be a salesperson. There's gonna be,
Yeah, I'm a salesperson.
what the tax implications of it are, is it, people complain about open space because it takes off the tax base. Is this tax base, you would say, well, there's no schools, that's why we voted that. But we're already at, there are costs to especially the dense development. But those,
And this is exactly why I'm trying to go this route first, trying to go with age restricted, multi-use development and senior living. Because it brings no tax burden, other than
don't say no.
fire and police. But it brings minimum. It's not gonna put kids in schools, it's not going to bring a noisy component. And we're trying to do it where, if you bring the other diagram back, what I'm trying to do with this project is on the the elderly housing, on this right here, the solar field is right here, and it's on the backside of Brookview, so a two-story building, or a three-story building here would have the least amount of visual detriment, where these can be single-story houses, and therefore, with the neighborhoods that are over here, they blend in better.
You're gonna see that come from Brooklyn, right over.
No, you
the
won't.
cranberry- Right over the cranberry bog?
No, you won't.
Two-story.
Because it's on the top of the hill. It's behind 44. When you go there,
Yeah,
you'll be
yeah.
like, wow, this is way in the back of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to make this as visually pleasant for the town. I'm trying to make it as financially responsible for the town. I'm trying to make it as residentially responsible as well.
And I missed your explanation. What is that 3-story building?
Well, this right here would be, senior living, age, what do you call it?
Assisted living.
How many units would be in that?
Well, we'd like to get in as many as we can. I think we're talking ideally up to around 60. We're not sure, the topography allows us to get that amount of units there. So by picking up that 3.5 acres approximately of town-owned land, that's going to allow us to, get a more density in that location. So it's to be determined. We're working off of right now conceptual, engineering plans that comply with the zoning bylaws.
Would you ever consider more affordable housing?
There is a second plan that shows all affordable housing on that instead of that. It's, the problem that we're facing is the water and the sewer. It's 10,000 gallons per day of nitrogen loading. So the more units you put in, the more problems you have.
Yeah.
But you do have 60 units in the assisted living portion.
It's more dense though. You have more room to put that water, wastewater treatment plant in.
Does Hopedale have sewage capacity?
I haven't got enough. Like I said, I mean, I'm in its infancy. I'm trying to, if it makes no sense to make any more phone calls, then.
There have been conversations between the towns of Mendon and Hopedale about the water and the sewer and, it's possible that they have the capacity. From my understanding, Hopedale needs more water but they may have.
And that's the issue with Milford, right?
But, yeah.
Aren't there, somewhere along the way, over the years, I've understood that there are some Mendon residences that have Hopedale water.
There are.
With
Okay.
the gas
Two
station.
fire hydrants on this property.
Yeah.
I have water going right by me. I can't attach to it.
But yeah, it's been a challenge probably,
It's like,
probably about like the challenges of getting new,
Milford Water
properties
through
on
Hopedale as a penalty or repairing an emergency. So a little bit on 140 and a little bit elsewhere. No one has water. Sewage capacity, maybe. Mendon was groping to develop water. So that we could use maybe as a chip somewhere.
We still are.
We're progressing there.
Yeah, so we've got some new federal funding in the water project, but it's years
Right,
away.
But it looked good though, right?
It
was
does,
good
it does,
results,
they're good results, yeah,
That's a long ways from that.
yeah.
right. So, and that's why, I mean, if I
It's
want to
contributing
pull
water
this
to
off, I know I have to do it by
More than
water and
160,
sewer.
yeah.
And by God's grace, if I could get sewer
Mhm.
by going over the hill before they rip all of Route 16 up, that would be amazing. That would solve one huge problem, because it wouldn't eat up a chunk of land that would be better used for something else.
There are a couple of rectangular purple pieces down there. What are
Right here
they?
and here, this is parking for a proposed building and a proposed building.
Oh, okay.
And
So
so
that would be commercial.
Correct.
That's the mixed use part, so that so those are businesses, like what sort of businesses?
Oh, right now, this is a sheet metal shop, and this is a proposed 6,000 square foot building that hasn't been built yet, and this is the same. It's a proposed office building, should it want to be office. That would be, again, a available lot for purchase for whomever wants to put a structure there.
I mean, it's interesting, because this was one of the, I think, 3 properties, was it? It ended up being only 3 properties that got included in the mixed use overlay, or was it 4? I know there were not very many, because I know it was, the corner got excluded from it, but this was included, and so, it was
Included
deemed-
for what?
for the mixed use overlay, for the age restricted mixed use overlay. And so I was not part of those conversations about why this property was included, but it,
When did you buy the gray house, Bob?
2019.
So 7 years ago, that was a big chunk of the west side, right?
Correct.
it would be interesting, I don't know if we could include the town planner. Have you talked to the town planner? And I mean, is there access to the town planner? Because it seems like, you know, because this property has a history of being discussed for the development of the ARMA zoning bylaw. Like, I'm curious about sort of what the rationale was and if there are like avenues to explore for developing this in that, you know, in the spirit of that zoning overlay.
The nice part about this property is it's zoned, commercial residential, it's zoned, highway business, it's zoned general business, and it's zoned industrial. And it's zoned RMED, so.
Wow.
I mean, I can put anything I want in there. My first goal is to try and do what's best for the town. And then, I mean, it'll trickle down from there, unfortunately.
Right, and I mean, we know from Mendon's, like, housing production plan that we have shortages in smaller units, and we don't have an assisted living facility in Mendon that I'm aware of.
Right, and that's
Is that
why
right?
me personally, I think this makes sense to bring
Right.
assisted living for the older folks, because I'm experiencing it myself, is the taxes aren't getting any cheaper. So it's driving people out of their houses.
And on the location and on the, you know, zoning bylaw, you know, between the age restricted and potentially assisted living, one very big plus is, you know, we're about 5 miles at the most to the Milford, you know, hospital facility, which is a big plus for assisted living and seniors. So I think the zoning that the town put in place with the overlay is very appropriate, you know, for this parcel.
It's got everything going for it except sewer and water.
Right.
Right. I don't know how you overcome that.
Well, but spending a lot of money that I wish I didn't
A
have.
package treatment plant, and like what Mr. Meehan is going to do, package treatment plant and a well.
Yeah, I mean.
But maybe not for 200 units.
There's no way around that, and I don't believe it's gonna be 200.
Well, you were saying how many apartments? 60?
60 units in that building.
In that one, and then you got another 40, 50, 60, how many you got there? Those are 1, 2.
Yeah, 42 counted.
Yeah. So, it's a lot of
talking-
water. It's a lot of.
We had one scheme that was all age restricted, and we got 54 units, but the engineer said we could potentially get up to 72. So what is shown here, as you can see on the plan, are duplexes. And, you know, one of the concepts with the age restricted duplexes would be each building would have its own well and its own septic system per building. So that would be one way to get around a central system. But the developers are going to look at both options to see what is most cost effective and, you know, what kind of density can they really get there to make the project, you know, pencil
What's
out.
the limiting factor? 10,000 square feet per bedroom? So that's only 4 per acre. So how many acres? You said 30?
It's
Maybe 100
35
units?
acres total.
If you can't use the wetland in your equation, I don't know. That would be ugly, but maybe it's doable.
And that's, again, I mean, that's what we're trying to get the questions answered that need to be answered, so that way there we know how to proceed with this, because it makes no sense to have an engineer design a facility that is not welcome.
And the traffic going in there, you're gonna need traffic study. Are you talking 60 units there, 100? How many ins and outs?
Maximum, it looks like a maximum of 72 units, you know, total. We've got obviously 2 ways in and out. We've got some circulation for the development and for life safety.
Not gonna want to be able to take a left on a rush hour, right? I don't know. That's not my department, but.
Here are just some of my comments, Bob, and appreciate you coming to the land use committee to talk about this first. I think as a land use committee, we want to promote a housing stock, we want to promote affordable housing and open space and trails. And so from a land use perspective, you know, it's got some appeal to it. From a planning and zoning perspective, I think it has some major challenges from a resource and so forth. So it's hard to give you take a temperature, I think. You know, our goals are to promote, land use in Mendon, responsible land use, and as a committee. But I think from a zoning and a planning, I think it does present some challenges. Certainly having, thinking about acquiring town-owned land, again, it poses its own challenges. But overall, we're open to, I think, or at least I'm open to proposals similar to this. I don't know if it would have to be dialed back at all. Between water and sewer and the area that you have to put it in, I think that would pose some logistical challenges. Those are just some of my thoughts from a land use committee perspective. We want to promote housing units, affordable housing, and again, those are the things that we try to focus on. Looking at the plan, at first glance, it seems a little overwhelming about where it is and the number of units, but I'm sure there's more detail that you could provide or.
Right. And in the coming days, I mean, when you drive down Route 16, you'll look in there and you'll be like, where is this gonna go? Because you won't see it. It's behind the solar panels that you can't see.
Well, I would hope it would be a development that we might want to see, right? We don't want to hide it.
Well, keeping trees is a good thing now.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not proposing that we cut down. I think what Bob's suggestion is because of its
That's a
location.
bargain,
So that.
And in the same spirit, I mean, all of the things that we're discussing are on the developer, not on the town. The water is on the developer, the sewer is on the developer, the traffic study is on the developer. So none of those things there's no blowback on the town for those things. The only thing the town gets out of this is a place to put their older residents and their over 50 residents, which then it also brings the housing stock up at no cost to the schools.
Well, and the way Mendon's affordable housing percentages, even any development that has 10% affordable housing will raise.
No, we're
2%.
Because we're at 2.8%.
No, I know, but if you're building 44 units, only 10% of them are affordable, it doesn't bring the percentage up.
It doesn't bring it up closer to like 3%.
No, you've got to have,
A fraction.
yeah, it's.
But the 10% just,
It's
it's
right.
10%, so
Right, but I mean, but we're well below 10%.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to 10% in.
We're
my
not gonna get
lifetime.
to 10%, but I mean,
No.
we could get to 3. Like, so like if a higher percentage, if this could have a higher percentage, like 15%, like, each unit added of affordable housing, potentially.
well, then
Well,
just
it's
turn it
when you're
into.
adding other houses, it just kind of, washes it out, the increase. I have a question, you want to say something? I was just kind of curious on this, like cul-de-sac, how, like in the planning board, you can only have 8 houses on a cul-de-sac. Is this, the ARMA have like other allowances, I guess? Just curious.
What?
Allowances, like, because usually, you know what I mean, like in the planning board?
Yeah, but there's a difference between this and single family housing. A lot bigger.
Right, it's like
It's
500
more.
feet.
This is more condensed.
With fire.
And it's probably part of the ARMA that you're, would be able to do that. My other comment is
Have
that,
you considered quads instead of duplexes?
We have, and I didn't want to overwhelm the board with multiple concept plans, but there is another plan that takes this assisted living out and puts 35 units up here as 5-unit buildings.
35 what?
35 units.
No, I was talking instead of the duplex of the one cul-de-sac quadrant, because I see that a lot.
You
Right
can't,
here.
what I'm trying to do, Barry, is I live right here, and all my neighbors live around me, so I'm trying to make it so that they don't say, I wanna choke you. If I can keep it a rural residential, development,
20 years ago, there was
then,
one in Hopkins on Lumber Street, 48 units. Had its own sewerage system and its own well. Okay, they put a well in, they put a pump house, Skillings did the work. They put the water lines into every house. There wasn't an individual well for the units, there wasn't an individual septic system for the units.
it was a combined.
It was combined.
Yeah.
And that was 20 years ago.
And I thought about that
Today,
here.
they still look good, they're nice units, they were high-end units, they were selling for close to 5 back then, 20 years ago. You know, and it's down off of Lumber Street down the bottom before it gets to 195.
Because, and I thought about that, having, down in this area right here, instead of putting a commercial building here, having that be like a wastewater, a massive, septic, design.
Yeah.
So that it encompasses all of that. I just don't know whether or not, that would put me past that 10,000 gallon,
I don't think the restrictions were that big, that great back then, it was 20 years ago.
so, and again, those are engineering,
And
concerns.
if I could ask you a question,
Yeah.
thinking outside the box here, but is it appropriate for the town to get into a negotiation with a developer who comes in with a proposal and say, hey, could we use CPA money to increase the 10%
Exactly, that was my
to
comment, yeah,
15% or
yeah.
Affordable.
Well, that was my comment, is that we do have CPA funds that can be used for affordable units, and so, would that be an incentive to have more affordable units in this? For like a developer,
I think it would, absolutely.
because I'd like to talk about that, because we just don't have affordable housing. and
I mean, it
it's
seems
very-
like all of the potential town-owned properties with potential affordable housing, that it's been cost prohibitive for developers to put in the water and sewer. I mean, is that, well,
Age restricted affordable, or you talking?
It could be age restricted affordable, I mean, any affordable would be good.
If you don't, then all of a sudden you get units with kids and you.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
avoid.
so if it's age restricted, the problem with the other sites that we've had is that you couldn't put as many houses in, whereas, and it's not desirable
see.
to a developer
okay,
or someone that develops units like that. And so we haven't had any luck, but CPA funds can be put towards a.
they can be,
Yes,
even towards a privately owned
yes,
development.
If it's
That's good
making-
to know.
yeah, if it's making, affordable units that are recognized by the state
So-
and restricted,
okay.
yeah.
And in order to get back to a previous conversation about town planner, I have been in contact with the town planner. I have shown some of these concept plans, and maybe, Ian, you could speak to that.
I'm actually meeting with her tomorrow, so,
Okay.
yeah, and Aaron, what were you saying?
Yeah. When you talk about affordable housing, is there a cap to that? How is it determined in Mendon? Or
it's a
is
state
it-
median
yeah.
income, it's gotta be available.
Yes,
You
the
get a certain
area,
percentage.
yeah, it's like 80% of the area median income, so,
Yeah.
something like, or I don't know, or, yeah, now I can't.
$250,000 maybe.
Oh, it's actually amended affordable housing is kind of expensive, so, even less would be a little bit more.
So it's based on the applicant's income and it's a percentage of the Southern Worcester County median.
Yes, yeah, so that's how the eligibility is determined, and then the costs, right, of the housing itself is determined by the state, but yeah, I don't.
Well, it's supposed to look the same or similar
It is
to
supposed
It's supposed
what
to be the
else.
same. You can't deviate, you can't put granite countertops in every other one, but, coriander or formica countertops in age restricted, in a low income.
But isn't that a 40B restriction, or is
This
it a
is, so
general
it's might be
restriction?
new grounds, it's whatever the state says, whether they will allow only senior citizens, I would hope they would, but they might want to see family houses, I have no idea.
So
We gotta
that'll be
play by
a
their
question that
rules.
will have to get answered, so that's,
I would think that they would want it to lot, we should talk to them, to help them get your water from Milford or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's true. I don't know if that would give, if there was more affordable units, if there'd be more incentive for the state to try to, have to ask, Dylan that. But having affordable with the smaller units would be so much easier than like,
Right.
Cobbler's Knoll with.
Go to Unibank, the new president, Ed Augustus, he's the former housing commissioner, former manager from the city of Worcester. He's now the president of the bank. I don't know if you've got your finances rolled up, but you need some heavy hitters. You need someone to help you get in the door.
Well, and that's, I mean, anybody that knows me here knows that I'm not a developer. I try to make some smart decisions to
You're a landowner.
justify my retirement, and this is my retirement in a nutshell. So I'm trying to, again, and I mean, there's a lot of ways that this project can go. I'm trying to do what's best for the town first.
Thank you for going around and
Yeah.
talking with everybody.
So, any other questions?
Yeah.
Bob, is your plan to potentially take this parcel and the plan and have it fully permitted and then sell it?
Yes,
So you would bear the costs of the engineering and the traffic study?
I'm already doing that.
Okay.
I mean, I have the engineers, they've already done all the perimeter markings. They're, within the next 2 weeks, they're doing all the wetland flagging. And then they're gonna put that on a plan and then decide how we can best negotiate buildings. And then the infrastructure for stormwater management and drainage and, you know, all of,
Yeah.
it'll be a shovel-ready plan when it's done.
Yeah.
Big project.
It is, and that's why I could use any and all the help I can get, because this, I'm not a developer by any means.
But money's gonna go out the door.
But if it comes back, then it's kiting money.
If you got the permit, yeah, but it takes some, yeah.
Well, I'll talk to Dylan about the affordable housing and see if there's, something that could be helpful.
More so with projects.
I'm gonna ask a really basic question, maybe you should know the answer, but I don't. What is the difference between, price-wise, in offering this,
At least
between
half
affordable housing
Half
and
price.
over 50?
It'll be half price. The affordable units will come in at less than, I would say, I'm just buying off the air.
There's not that much money.
Is that a relevant question?
No, the developer can't make a profit on an affordable home.
She's gotta subsidize, she's gotta subsidize it. She's gotta make more.
That's for sure.
I think to answer your question, there's affordable housing and then there's age-restricted housing, right? And this, we're contemplating or at least kicking around the possibility of maybe a combined. There may be in the overlay district, I look at the bylaw, whether there was a suggested percentage of affordable housing
There is.
on this overlay, right?
There is 10%, yeah.
10%.
And I believe that it's age-restricted affordable housing. I think that
It's combined,
It's that
it's not one or
intersection,
the
right.
other.
Okay.
Yeah. And on that plan, is there any open space or trails or anything that I'm looking at or no?
Well, we're gonna put open space with the wetlands.
Yeah.
And honestly, this comes real close to button up with Muddy Brook North Conservation Area. So there could be a trail put through the Muddy Brook Conservation Area off of this for the, the residents of this development to access.
You're gonna lose 20%, 30%.
Oh, this,
Pavement and rooftop and road. You're cutting the trees.
there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be done.
Tight lot, right?
Also, the park, the 3.6 acres that Bob's looking to purchase from the town is just for the public water supply, so it wouldn't be built on. It's just land that would stay.
And that's the property where the solar panels,
Behind the slides.
behind, but it's the same property, I think,
Same
right?
parcel,
Same,
yes.
same parcel. yeah.
Yes, it's town-owned land, but it
It would
abuts
be
me.
like chopping, the goal would be to chop off a piece of that town and land.
Correct.
Okay.
Because that's landlocked land anyways, and Ian had the picture up earlier. when it's up, you see the Muddy Brook goes right through, so it cuts it off from going up to the top of the hill where North Street is. And with the solar panels being in the front of it and Muddy Brook being to the back of it, it locks it in where there's no access to it. So it's almost a win-win for everybody because it gets rid of land that the town has no access to, and it gives this project a little bit more stability.
So this is Muddy Brook North, this is preserved. Actually, this is also can't be developed, it's part of the Brook View development. And the piece that I think you're looking at is here.
Correct.
Okay.
From
So it does
point to
connect
point.
Muddy Brook.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if the town did sell it, it would be nice to have allowance to have trails in it.
So are there two pipelines? One's good, the big one's going that over the town land, but then there's another one going up?
There's,
Yeah.
right over here is the gas line, and then right over here is the power lines. So, and again, that's some of my problem is you really
They don't like
can't
you
build on
crossing
it,
the gas
and they don't like you crossing it with a bunch of stuff, so it's, the property has its problems.
It's challenged.
I'm willing to work around the problems in order to try and bring something to the table and hopefully benefit not only myself, but the town.
All right, any more questions?
And what's that big yellow blob in the middle?
That's the solar,
Oh, okay.
and that's what he's saying, it's behind the solar, this piece of land.
So this is Route 16 right here. You see how far back this goes? So you're gonna be right about here with this development. So you're 700-800 feet off the street.
Wouldn't this be where oh, I see, wouldn't this be where the assisted living is and then the
Yes.
houses are here?
Yes.
The other side of the streams.
I have one more question about the property itself.
You wanna go back to the
Yeah,
other
if
one?
you go back to that. So it looks like they're all the affordable housing on the right, and then there's, over on the left, there's the assisted living. But what is that little road that it goes north?
This right here?
Yeah, what is
I'm
that?
assuming that they planned that for the public drinking water supply.
They gotta get back.
So if we can change that from there, we can get rid of this road and put it back here in the town-owned land, and that way there, it gets rid of that whole spur
You still have to build a
So-
road to the wellhead.
but at that point, then you can come off of the parking lot from there. So it's a lot less disturbance.
So do you go from the assisted living place on the left to and do you cross the
Right here?
wetlands there?
There's already a wetland crossing in there. This was an old development back in 1927. This was designed to have 150 houses in it. So they were all 1/8 acre, 1/4 acre lots that people could buy multiple lots. And I have an old drawing from 1927 where there's 7 or 8 different roads. Browning Road, that's this road right here. That's the old Browning Road right here. This is Moran Street. There's another one right here that is Upland Road, and another one right here that is Granite Street. So there was all of those roads, and this road right here is Central Street. And it used to go all the way to Dedham.
1927, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
In this 1920s plan?
Correct. So, and actually the trolley ran through here at one time.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
So-
want that back?
Go for a historic.
There might be some neighbors that might have some issues with that one.
Wow.
So that's my story for today.
All right, well, as you get more information, keep us informed, and then if it goes on town meeting, we can vote on it also,
Okay. And that's what I'm looking for is input and direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it has possibilities, but there are a lot of people that know a lot more than I do, but I think it's an interesting prospect.
Yeah, and as long as is a definite, no, we don't like it, at least it gives forward progression opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Hey, well, take care.
I could use a couple of shower pans.
Not doing that anymore.
I know. Neither am I. But I wish I was.
It's all rubber today.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it sad? But, hey, you know what?
That's it.
It's for today, not forever.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a good day.
We're going.
Alright, let's go to the minutes. Need a chance to look at the minutes.
They look good to me, you know, who,
Make a motion, accept the minutes as written.
second,
Any discussion? Did you want to look, Carolyn? Oh, I guess you can look anyways. Is everyone all set to vote, or do you need to?
Yep.
Okay. So did you do a roll call? Where were we here?
We're all in the room.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I know, it's
Okay.
been a while.
Nice. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, nay? All right, that passes. The 5-year land use program. That was in the attachments that I had, and the one thing we kind of left off, I noticed is what I wrote in red, under to help guide business and residential development to shape Mendon's growth, avoiding haphazard development. Promote projects that will enhance affordable housing, and that, for some reason, it just dropped off. And so I would like to kind of vote with it on, because I think that when we voted last time, it wasn't on there. So, would someone like to make a motion? In a second, we can discuss it.
I'll move to add the phrase of enhancing affordable housing to the purpose or something.
It's the 5-year land use, program, so it's, improve access to open space and recreation resources, expand the amount of land, expand the amount and improve conditions of passive recreation, it's what we vote on every year, pretty much, and we get that.
So what are the exact words that enhance, is it?
It's under the topic, or the goal, I guess, to help guide business and residential development to shape Mendon's growth, of avoiding haphazard development, and so
Right, but what am I moving? Is it enhancing to promote
projects that will enhance affordable housing.
projects that will enhance affordable housing? Well, that's
Well,
not too
that's
messy, but that's good
That's what we were
words.
doing.
Yeah, it works for me.
Second.
That's what we were doing.
Aye.
All those in favor, or not, any discussion?
This is the motion to accept just the language in red?
Yeah, well, we already kind of accepted everything else, so it's good.
I only have one question, if we could back up on item number 1, what is gaps in equity? Utilizing these resources?
This is, a lot of this was taken from the open space and recreation plan.
The what plan? I'm sorry.
Open space and recreation plan. And I think that was in there, and we pulled these 5 items from that, and identify gaps in accessibility and equity in utilizing these resources and developing plans to address these gaps, so to help make it so that everyone can use these resources.
I can see how that plays certainly with accessibility. The other one's a little
Vague.
harder to do. We don't like have public bus lines, or what's going to make that public space more accessible to the lower income.
Right.
I don't want to parse words either, but I was just
Yeah,
curious
it's
what
just-
that.
I mean, it's like a goal, to, if, we have the opportunity to do that, then.
Yeah, but it's a
To have the
consideration.
accessible trails and,
And the way we do in terms of like, our open spaces are open to everybody, anybody can come to them, so,
This is probably more of an accessibility issue, right?
yeah, we're trying.
Because we don't discriminate against anyone
No,
from going.
Yeah, and the trail grant that Isabella won, we're hoping to have some ADA in those trails, so we'll see. It's just hard in Mendon because things are so rocky and it's, constantly.
But you could say a recreation area on Bob's lot is more accessible by bike maybe from Milford or from the bikeway from Route 16 as opposed to Millville Road up on, if that's, because it's how people get there, right?
I think it might also suggest, accessing the trails, not just traveling to the trails, right? But now, once you're on the trails, are they accessible? Is there obstacles and?
Right, and that's what, and we need more work on that, and we are trying to do that, yeah. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay? All right. Let's see. 5, we don't really have to talk about because we we went over the land use committee bylaw and we decided to send it to the general bylaw review committee. And I'm gonna go to their meeting tomorrow night and then answer their questions. And so whatever they come back with, if they have any changes, I'll bring it back to this board and then we'll finally vote on it. But it will be an annual town meeting. That was put in the warrant.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so over the past many years, I've applied for several grants. Like Mass Save, we did a Solarize Mass Land Development, Carolyn. And in 2014, there was a green energy grant, and we had these kind of miscellaneous accounts. And Isabella now is the energy coordinator, so she's kind of took the green communities. And what I would like to do is transfer these accounts over to Isabella because it makes more sense for her to have them. Because they've been sitting there for a long time and I'm gonna.
Can you say the amount in each of the
Yeah,
three
so like
accounts?
in Mass Save, Community Initiative, there's like $6,219,000. The town
No,
hall. And I gotta check, and I have to check.
219, not 219,000.
No,
$6,219.
All right.
Yeah.
I got a little excited.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, all the projects.
And then town hall ED, and I'm not 100% sure that the money is still in some of these accounts, so I need to double check it. But the town hall ED is $2,069 because we got a grant. And there's a green energy grant, $571, but I don't know the account number, so I need to work with Tracy to find out what that is. And then the Solarize Mass Plus that we did, $3,664 is in that account.
Well, let's transfer it and then she can use that if there's any costs that come up, right?
Right, and so like, for example, the Solarize Mass Plus, we spent $12 a year for the website just to keep it going. And so, she would do that. Or if there was something that we wanted to do, we could work with her. And so we don't really need to vote on it now because I need to find out the numbers more specifically, but does that seem like generally a good thing to do for you?
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you do with that?
What other pots of money are we putting it in or what's?
Well, all of these could be used for energy efficiency
Okay.
or renewable. And so,
Could they be used for like town projects for
Oh, yeah.
for energy projects?
yes,
Like, so like,
it could be education, it could be, so I think that.
or like,
Okay.
new equipment that's more like clean energy heating units for buildings?
Probably.
Okay, I mean, not that it would go that far with those, but like offset.
Yeah, or like if there was a grant that maybe Elena wanted to, or Isabella wanted to apply to.
Some sort of
It was matching, that you have to match.
okay.
And also just consolidate and put them together because at the end of these grants, they said, keep it, just use it for energy efficiency, you know what I mean? So we're not like using the money irresponsibly.
So none of these are green community grants?
No.
Okay.
And those would be transferred under what account, to what account?
I would have to figure that out.
I'm just thinking who has control over them and who decides how to spend it.
Well, I would say that have Isabella be in flow of that, but I think that
Right, but
She
then
would
in
do
the
it in
she,
conjunction with us.
in the she report too for energy stuff.
Well, probably in terms of procurement, wouldn't it be through Jeremy, like, if, like, depending on the amounts, that it would be like probably, it was, she'd still have to go through that procurement process for any purchases, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Jeremy probably, yeah.
That makes sense. So it's, as long as it's for that use, right? So we have to describe for energy uses, however that's phrased,
Yeah, and I mean,
whatever account makes sense.
and the only reason that we picked this up is because in the beginning is we were interested in doing it, no one else was doing it, whereas now we actually have an energy coordinator and the Green Communities program has grown and so it's just more established. So I guess we don't need to vote on it, but does that seem to make sense in general?
I think if there's some guardrails or oversight, not that I suspect anything, I'm just thinking
There should be other eyes on
there should be some
Yeah.
oversight.
But she's the logical person, or that position is the.
Right. Especially since we're, like, this group does not have any plans for those funds, and I think if someone in Isabella's position has ideas about how the funds could be used rather than just sitting in the accounts. So, because the land use committee doesn't have any active energy projects right now.
We've been transferring them over to her.
Yeah, so, but I mean, and
So-
he might actually be able to come up with some
Yes,
projects
but
as
you-
part of
she
her
could-
job.
She could propose them
Right.
to us.
Right.
Yeah,
Or if we had ideas, I think that energy coordinator, whoever it is, would be open,
Yeah.
to.
Is the transfer for ease of managing the money?
Kind of, it's like in these random accounts that a lot of people, I think I'm the only one that knows they're there really, and so it just makes it more accessible and, use the money for what it's there for.
And so right now, we have signing authority for those accounts and we're gonna transfer that over. I'm just curious how.
I know, it
what
was
the-
more like, kind
If
of like,
Isabella needed some money, I'm sure she'd come here and say, I need some money from this account.
yeah, I mean, like I would apply for grants and we apply to some grants and then we get the money and it's not really, I mean, I think the way I did it was this committee would vote on it, but there's nothing really like legally that, a way that it needs to be done, I don't think, these
It
funds.
was kind of an orphan program that we started, when it needed to be under somebody. It was Andy did all the work, so it was just, and it was the closing.
Yeah, and
I
so.
have no
I
objection
just-
to the, the transfers, just curious, how, who had oversight with, how that was spent.
I mean, as the grants were going on, like when we were doing the Solarized Mass, the group that was working on it spent them like.
Yeah, there was no question, the grant had to be done. This is
Right,
what,
and
now
that
it's
makes you do.
been done and there's leftover money,
Yeah.
which
Right,
is a nice thing.
so then there was some possible, more items that we could vote on.
Do you want to take a motion on that, or the transfer?
Well, let me come back with more specific information and then we can, So, I mean, and we don't really need to vote on these yet, but I would like to put on the warrant. Well, one is the, approving the Mendon 5-year land use program, which we do every year, that's one. And then the land use bylaws, which I'll come back with to make sure there's not any changes by the general bylaw committee. And then we voted, a while back, $4,700 to survey 17 Pleasant Street, and we don't need to use that money because everything around it was surveyed, and so we don't have to. So I'd like to transfer that back into the land bank. So that, I guess, would be the only one we would vote on tonight.
I'll move that we transfer the 4,700, whatever, back to the, which fund are we calling it?
Land bank.
Back to the land bank.
And so, I'm sorry, this is gonna be on the warrant, or?
Yeah, I'd like to
So-
put the warrant, just
So is it moving to transfer it or moving to support the transfer?
right, to recommend to the town that,
Yeah.
that's the way that would be worded,
We recommend
to the town.
to transfer it back to the land bank,
Yeah.
since it's not needed.
And so is this gonna be a land use committee warrant article? Okay,
Yeah, and I'll submit it.
okay,
Um,
I'll second.
okay. Any discussion? Right, all those in favor?
Okay.
Nay? Right. Then, the last thing I just wanted to mention, because I don't think I mentioned to this committee, is, on the Denton property, which is now called the Oak and Wall Farm Preserve.
Oak and what?
Oak and Wall Farm Preserve, that's what they call the farm.
Wall farm.
Yeah, that's what they called it, and so we kept that same
Yeah.
name. The town received $600,000 from the Nature Conservancy, and one of those requirements was that we had to put together a passive recreation plan. And so the Conway School has a program where students will help on different projects. And so we've been coordinating with them to help us do that. And so we haven't signed anything yet, but we just don't have the capacity to do it on our own. And so this would be super helpful. And it'd also be a way to pull in the volunteers because they'll need on the ground, working in trails and things like that.
I'm all for that. Is that a $2,000 or is that a $5,000 or you'll find out?
26,000.
26,000. Ouch.
But we ended up saving quite a bit of money on that property. Because we did get the other, the funding from the other grants, the land grant, Audubon, the Nature Conservancy. And we put in the CPA money, but the other resources where we got the grants from said we could keep the money even though we didn't need it for the purchase of the conservation restrictions. So we have some money set aside that we can use. And that's what we would use. And it's in the account to purchase the Denton CR conservation restriction. And this is a requirement of the conservation restriction. So, and then actually at the town meeting, we'll have an article on there to transfer those funds to a open wall farm preserve maintenance account, because we really didn't word the article. We just said it's for the conservation restriction purpose, but it really should have been for and maintenance. So we don't need to vote on it, it's more just kind of, that.
But there will be another article on the warrant, but that'll be from CPA.
CPA, yeah.
I like the Conway School, but I guess that's the only price for planning. That's steep.
Yeah, well, yeah, the thing is that there's just no one that has been able to do it, and we do need some technical assistance. We need to work with Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program because of the species that's on the property, and so there's just a lot of the mapping and things like that to do with, so this will really kickstart it.
I guess I would support that more if there's opportunity for the community to learn as opposed to just being an academic routine, so it's.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the plan will include, what we should move forward on, and so it can be like educational things, signage.
Right, but I'm suggesting that there be a more community input, which
There will
they
be.
don't like to, but it's cost, or
There will be.
maybe you negotiate that.
But there will be,
Right, okay, good.
because we have like 6 or 7 people that volunteered to be land stewards on the property, so this will be a way to pull them in, and we
Good.
haven't really been able to engage them.
Good.
So, and then the common land trust will be involved, and Isabella, so.
You looking for a motion to adjourn or the other stuff you
I
want?
think so, I think we covered everything. Unless anybody else has anything? No? All right, Barry?
Second.
Right, thank you very much. Any votes? Oh, we need to vote. All those in favor? Okay.
So when is our next meeting? Is it gonna be, so we're gonna do this, we're gonna, then,
I think so.
that's the last one before,
How's your
oh
time?
yeah, so town meeting is on a
Well,
virtual
you took on a
land use night. It's
Oh,
gonna
and
be
what's the-
Tuesday, the
Yeah.
12th, so second Tuesday. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stop this.
We're at that.
It is.
And
And you gotta
so,
with all the
so setting up